I'm just driving down 75 here in Atlanta, God's country, and got some time, doing my busy commute. Might as well talk about a very pressing matter for the Raider Nation, and that is, of course, all of the relocation rumors that are swirling around heading into the 2014 season. Before we get into that, though, obviously got the first game of the week coming up on Sunday. Raiders against the Jets. Derek Carr was named the starter for that after he put up that amazing performance against the Seahawks in the final game of the preseason, which I think is obviously the right call. I believe he definitely should be the starter. You drafted him. Matt Schwab, we all saw the season he had last year, so I think it makes sense to go with the hot hand. Of course, if anything happens, he's got Schwab as backup. But I think, this is the right call for the organization. You put in Carr early, baptism by fire. I think it's going to end up being a very good thing for this organization and certainly for Carr himself. So I'm definitely expecting great things out of this Sunday's game, and I might even do a little recap, depending on the way things turn out. So that's something to look forward to next week. But for this week, though, talking about the Raiders, you look at what's happening with this organization. I've been on record before saying that it's an organization that has so many front office problems that I doubt this team will ever become a successful on the gridiron team until you get Tommy Boy out of there. You actually get a general manager who is complemented by an organization up front who knows what they're doing. Which, I'm sorry, I don't think Mark Davis is that person. He's a guy who I do not think really deserves to be running any organization, let alone a multi-billion-dollar National Football League organization. But, he's in there. He's got the final say, and the future of this organization is going to be dictated by him and his big, stupid bowl cut. As far as his plans go, this about a 158% chance that this will be the last time we will see any National Football League team in the city of Oakland, California. I'm not sure where the Raiders will end up playing next season, but it's a guarantee they're not going to be playing in the East Bay. For the longest time, I always kind of thought the best possible solution for what's going on with Oakland now would be to put them in a shared facility, preferably at the new Santa Clara Stadium with the 49ers. To me, that's the most cost-efficient way of handling it. It has precedence. You got the Meadowlands with the Giants and Jets playing together. To me, it makes sense. The thing is, even though Roger Goodell wants it, the 49ers organization don't want it. But more surprisingly, Mark Davis doesn't want it. So instead of doing the thing that I think probably makes the most sense in the long run, probably the safest thing as far as a corporate maneuver goes, he is sort of going around at looking at other cities and possibly moving in the Raiders for a short-term period, then getting the public-private partnerships together and getting an all-new stadium built for a permanent relocation. Obviously, the big one that's happened over the course of the summer has been the development that Mark Davis actually went to San Antonio and met with city officials about possibly relocating the team there. It's a much smaller market in the Bay Area, but they want a team. They seem to be open. They already have the Alamo Dome there. It is a city that has been hungry for pro football for, 3 decades now. And, maybe you can kind of use that as a dangling carrot there to perhaps get the city to help finance an all-new stadium, which it seems like they probably would. We all know about corporate taxes. We all know about how cities in California are going under left and right. So it kind of makes sense more in the long term, I think, to put a team, if you're a professional sports organization anyway, in San Antonio than it does Oakland. And maybe as a short-term fix, that probably isn't the worst idea. The thing is, I don't think it's a long-term remedy because the San Antonio market, despite the hospitality from perhaps the Houston Texans and Dallas Cowboys organization, I don't think it's a good long-term investment, especially when the Raiders, I think, have at least two better options at the forefront. The two L cities. Ultimately, if I had to make a prediction here on where the Raiders eventually end up, I think they end up playing the only place they really can end up, and that's Los Angeles. Of course, the last 20 years there hasn't been a team in LA, and there's been a lot of red tape over getting a new stadium built, who's actually going to finance it. There's been like 3 or 4 major proposals put up, and they keep being put on the back burner. I think in at least some capacity, Los Angeles has worked better as a threat than they have an actual possible venue for the National Football League, because every time the league starts saying, hey man, if I want to make a new stadium in your city, they have that dangling carrot of Los Angeles say, hey, if you don't build your new dome here, we're going to move to LA because they want a team. Obviously, LA has a TV market. They have so many different financiers possible. There's the idea of doing a stadium in Carson, California. There's the idea of possibly doing a stadium in downtown LA. Actually, there's 2 proposals that if I remember correctly. There's Farmers Stadium. There's also the downtown development next to the Staples Center, which is going around. So it's not that there isn't money there. There are proposals. It's on the table. It's very much possible. It's just a matter of everybody getting their ducks in a row and actually having a franchise come and knock on the door and say, hey, we want to relocate. And I think despite the ineptness of Mark Davis and all of his lackeys, that is probably the most likely and probably the most beneficial long-term solution for this Raiders organization. So LA, I think, is probably the best long-term investment, also the likeliest, although I would not be surprised if Tommy Boy decides to move the team to San Antonio for a year. If the Raiders do move to San Antonio, which I think is a distinct possibility of this kind of leadership, I don't think it's going to be long-term. They're going to be there for about a year, and then that's when LA calls and they get something arranged. And then we have the return of Los Angeles Raiders. All that said, however, there is one major variable going on that no one's talking about, which possibly could be a very real destination for this team, and that's the city of London, England. We've had all these London games last couple of years. The Raiders are playing the Dolphins in London this year as part of the International Series. The National Football League, even Robert Kraft and the Patriots have all said they want a team in LA. Not LA. Well, they do want a team in LA, but they want a team in London too. And they're really making that initiative to make this a global sport. Apparently, there is a base for NFL fans in London. These games, they're selling well. You've got Wembley Stadium. Obviously, you have people that want to back this. I can't remember who it is. There was some ownership group in Los Angeles who also recently, I believe, bought stake in one of the Premier League teams over in England. So that's another big sign, I would say, that this is a possible thing that can happen. But, with the league just absolutely pushing for it and all these attempts to make this a global game, is it possible that I'm already jumping the gun here, that the Oakland Raiders this time next year could be playing in London, England? I think it's a remote possibility, but it could potentially happen. The thing is, as much as NFL wants this, and within 5 years, before this channel gets 500,000 hits, I do think there will be a team located in the London, England area. Maybe even 2 teams, depending on how things go out. The problem is they're trying to work out how that's going to be done logistically. How are you going to come up with a time zone difference? Is it fair to other teams after that long traveling schedule? You do maybe 4 games a year in London and then 4 home games and some neutral sites in America make up the difference. I don't know. That has to be worked out. But it's clear the team could possibly end up there because the league wants it so bad. Like I said, do I think it's going to happen? Yeah, probably not. I think Los Angeles is like an 80% bet. San Antonio is probably about a 40% bet. And London, although remote, I'd say it's probably about a 25% chance of that happening. So all things considered, I think Los Angeles is pretty much the go-to spot for the Raiders. If they don't end up in Los Angeles within 5 years, I would be shocked. I think they'll probably end up making the announcement about midway through the season. Maybe the Raiders do great this year and that changes the entire dynamic. It's way too early to tell. But I think next year, 2015, the Raiders will probably be playing in the Rose Bowl. They'll be playing somewhere in Los Angeles for a season as a new stadium arrangement gets worked out. Now, before we conclude, let's look at some other possible scenarios. Is it possible that the Raiders could be playing in a city that's not Los Angeles, that's not London, that's not San Antonio? And, if I think London is a long shot, if I think San Antonio is kind of a long shot, then the idea of this team playing anywhere else, I think, is also a little bit ridiculous and preposterous. There's been a big move to get Toronto a National Football League team. I think if that happens, it's going to be Buffalo Bills relocating. Actually, I think if there's going to be a team that relocates to London, it'll probably be the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I definitely see the Raiders roosting in Los Angeles before I see them playing anywhere else, like Toronto or any other international place. So that's just my thoughts on the relocation possibilities. LA, I think, is probably the safest bet, the best long-term investment. But there is a very, very remote chance that the Raiders could end up playing elsewhere. But I don't think that's strong. That said, there is one thing I will guarantee 100%, and that's that an emergency plan will not go through. No matter how bad Mark Davis wants it, there will not be a contingency plan built up for this. This is it, folks. The last season you will ever hear the words Oakland Raiders associated with an actual existing NFL franchise. For better, for worse, that's just the truth, y'all.